On this episode of Nitro Nights, we're talking everything sound, and you can either hear me or you can't.
But that just goes to illustrate the importance of
sign language. With a "this is thank you." Did he just smash the record? Great work. Great work. Woo! Let's go. What up, team, and welcome to another episode of Nitro Nights. My name is Indiana Froskurrin Black, and today we've got something very special for your ears. Since we all know audio and sound effects are important components when it comes to racing games, this is exactly what we're going to be talking about tonight. And for that, none other than Ermin Hamidovic will be today's guest. Of course, he will also venture into the Trackmania Hotlap, so you surely don't want to miss it. But first, break up your ears because we're going to take a closer look at how racing games like Race Room, Assetto Corsa, or iRacing deal with the topic of individual car sounds. Now, there are many different approaches, and they all aim to create the best possible audio experience for you, the players.
This just sounds weird, doesn't it? A good racing game needs more than just the car looking and driving realistically. It should also sound like you're sitting in a real car, with the engine roaring while you floor it. Game developers spend a lot of time recording and adding sounds to the cars to provide even greater immersion for the player. And while games like Race Room are known in the community for their thunderous V8s, in other games, the sound just isn't rich enough for the fans, so they help themselves out, like they did in Assetto Corsa, taking a rather generic-sounding Lamborghini Huracan and turning its engine note up to 11. But there are other games that don't need sound mods, because they already sound great from the start. An excellent example is its successor, Assetto Corsa Competizione. Not only does it look better, but it also sounds incredible. It provides fans with the extra immersion they all wanted from the get-go. And let's not forget about iRacing. The long-running racing sim doesn't only showcase its newest cars with their individual sound, they're also continuously expanding and updating it with patches. They did just this in June 2020 with their implementation of X Audio 2, which offered new sound options and a better soundscape. All this underlines that sound is perhaps the most overlooked aspect in racing games, but an integral part nonetheless. So, next time you're booting up your favorite racing game, maybe just close your eyes and sink back into those sounds.
Literal music to my ears, and I am very happy to welcome our guest. We have a perfect guest, Ermin, who has a background in sound engineering, also recently just did a phenomenal tutorial on R Factor 2 for us over at overtake_GG or overtake.gg, wherever you want to go. Ermin, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. Sounds great.
Perfect. I was just saying that your mic sounds so beautiful. So I'm always like a huge fan when people have like gorgeous setups. And I saw your setup, I was like, oh my God, it is so nice.
I probably shouldn't reveal that it was a bit of an afterthought then. I kind of just cobbled it together as part of my mastering room for audio, and it just kind of happened to work well, but I'm really glad you like it.
Perfect. Now, for some of the viewers who may not know your background or kind of have as much experience with you, can you kind of give me a brief introduction of what your YouTube channel focuses on and what your background and how it feeds into that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so they're two pretty disparately different things. I know we're combining them here tonight, which is awesome. So it's a kind of new experience for me. But my background is in audio engineering. So essentially, I have been a sound engineer for about 15 or more years now. I started off as just a sound engineer, worked my way through mixing, record production, and then finally mastering, which I kind of did as a day job for a very long time until recently. Very recently, I've gotten into software development in audio production as well. It doesn't necessarily feed into the channel so much as I kind of needed a bit of a balance in my life, bit of an escape from the audio engineering, which is why I started the sim racing channel during the lockdowns here in Australia. The way that they kind of connect to one another is probably just the fact that I'm taking some of that experience that I've gotten in the audio scene and bringing it to the production quality of the videos. As a lot of people noticed, I actually have a very unremarkable voice, which this microphone would not tell you because it's very deceptive. It's a very, very good sounding microphone. And if you process things the right way, you'd be quite amazed at what you can get out of it. So yeah, that's essentially it.
It's like the perfect intersection in terms of resume for this conversation. Now, kind of focusing a little bit more on the sound elements of racing games, I would love to get your take on kind of how important sound is. Like, obviously, everyone will always say, oh, yeah, sound's very important. It's, about immersion. The whole thing about esports racing or sim racing is that simulation effect. But what about things like inputs, like braking or gear shifting or even steering? Do you think sound has also an important value in terms of telling the drivers what the car is doing and almost giving it a competitive edge?
We always had a cliche in sound production where we said, when you do your job right, nobody knows that you exist. But when you do it wrong, everybody hates you. So it really does tie into sim racing in a visceral way, because obviously there's the immersion factor. If you're going off games such as, let's say, Dirt Rally 2 or Assetto Corsa Competizione, they sound phenomenal. It sounds like you're driving a real car because they're actually mic'd up sounds that you're hearing and they're interpolated to the car inputs. But then there's the pragmatic element as well, which kind of feeds into your driving. Obviously, you mentioned some of the obvious ones, such as gear shifting. So if you make your ear a bit more sensitive to pitch, you'll be able to know exactly when to shift at the optimal point without having to look at the rev indicator, without having to watch the flashing red or the blue lights. So you can actually increase your speed a lot that way. The obvious one is obviously braking. You can hear when the ABS is pulsing or you've locked the wheels, when you've gone over the limit. And then the big one for me that a lot of people don't actually realize, especially when you're dealing with a title that has vague force feedback, you're not actually able to tell when the car is on the limit sometimes. And the best indicator of that can be the tire squeal sound. So the first thing that I'll do when I get a new sim is I'll jack up the tire squeal sounds. So even if I can't feel the grip loss, I can tell when I'm at the limit of the slip angle based on how much the tires are squealing at me, basically. So some pro hacks there.
The subconscious things that all the drivers are taking in. Now, we even reached out to our social just to kind of check what games that the community felt that had the best sound. Of course, you already talked about ACC came up a lot. Forza also came up. Do you kind of have a way to weigh in on what game you think in particularly does sound the best?
Well, I mean, if you would consider it a sim, I would say the Dirt Rally 2 currently rules the roost. I would say the original basically set the benchmark for car audio in games, and the sequel just followed through. I've not really heard anything quite that immersive that sounds so much like real vehicles from all different angles, whether it be exterior, from the rear, from the front, the Doppler effect, all kinds of things. So it's very, very impressive. And I guess if we're going to go for a very, very close second in the more hardcore sim racing community, ACC has got to take the cake. That's Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Now, you've already kind of separated kind of like the hardcore versus not necessarily the casual sim race, but obviously seeing a very wide spectrum of games within the esports racing scene or the sim racing scene. If a new sim was to come out, a driving sim, what do you think it would need to really stand out and kind of make a splash? Do you think that there's enhancing the realism and sound is part of that, or do you think that there's other elements that a sim would need to kind of compete with the ACCs?
Well, if we broaden the discussion somewhat, so it's not just about sounds, I think that's a place that Automobilista 2 very much uniquely finds itself positioned in right now as we speak, because they're essentially newcomers to the scene. They broke out around the same time that my channel did, sometime around early to mid last year with the early access release. And they're basically battling it out with some very senior titles that are building on physics engines that are sometimes decades old. I'm sure that the ACC one is building on ACs, and AC is probably building on Netcar Pro, and the R-Factor is building on R-Factor 1, and all kinds of things. And they're coming in with the Madness engine, which never really kind of blossomed into a full simulator. And they're trying to essentially tweak that over to a more hardcore niche sim racing crowd. And I mean, the net effect that you're seeing is a lot of releases, a lot of tweaking, what feels like very almost frantic updating as they're trying to find their place in the industry, like trying to decide, is our user base, are they in for the niche Brazilian car content? Do they want the GT3s that everybody else does? And, obviously the sound fits in from that, but I think currently sound is a bit of an afterthought in that title. But it's a very, very good question, because it's a very difficult market to break into. There's very established fan bases for all the major titles, and anytime that you break into anything fresh and you're the new guy, there's so many people waiting to jump on you and kind of find all the faults in what you're doing. So it's very, very tricky.
seeing if you can live up to what everyone else has already kind of set before you. Now, kind of moving into our quick fire round, I believe we set the tone for you. It's very easy. I'm going to ask you some questions, and it's just like off of instinct. You just need to respond as quickly as possible. Favorite car?
Subaru 22B.
I was like, I whiffed the intro onto that one, but I was like, wow, tick, tick, tick. Okay. Personal hero. Yeah. Oh, no, it's cool. Personal hero of esports racing.
James Baldwin.
Okay.
Got that one fast.
You did. Favorite racing game?
R-Factor 2.
Favorite driver?
Walter Roll.
And electric or acoustic guitar?
Electric.
Ooh, okay. Is there...
So we got quicker as we spooled up.
You did. You got much better at it, which is perfect because we're actually now about to go into our hot lap. And I believe that you've been practicing for this. Do I want to give anything away? Do you have anything to say before we kind of reset and get you over on the Trackmania course?
Well, I mean, I played it for the very first time last night after Toby hooked me up with the title. I'd never played it before, and I felt really bad after the first few laps. I felt like this just was not going to go too well, and I may have on a keyboard gotten into the 48s, but there's no chance I'm going to be able to replicate that here tonight. Not under pressure. So you're going to see me fail abysmally. So at least that'll be entertaining in its own way.
Oh, perfect. I love abysmal failure. So we're going to go ahead and get him set up on the Trackmania course. Do not go anywhere, guys. We will be right back, and I will speak correctly next time. Now, a reminder, guys, if you haven't watched the hot lap, it works like this. Ermin is going to have 3 minutes to put up the fastest time. That basically means that he could, if he completes the track, get 3 full laps out of it. Now, Emily Jones, another Oceanic racer, is our current leaderboard header. Now, are you ready, Ermin? You may now restart and begin the race. Now, I'm not going to lie, guys. I've seen him have a couple of warm-ups of this, and I think we got a good racer.
Oh, now you've put the pressure on. Oh, no, it's all over.
But
I need the spirit of James Baldwin with me.
Normally, this is where people like immediately out the gate mess up, and you just nail it every single time. And like the H curve, at least that's what I call it, is like one of the hardest parts. Okay, good through the S curves. Look at that. All I'm saying, Australians and Trackmania.
So much pressure.
Now, of course, the trick through this section is exactly what he's doing right now, which is not driving on the middle of it to make sure that you maintain contact and speed with the track. He's now through the final left-right turns before the jump. Holy.
You know, it's not going to be phenomenal, but it's a decent first step.
I would like confirmation that, did he smash the record? He's second. So Emily Jones must have a, what, 53? Oh, wow, Emily Jones got kicked off. So I'm told that you're second place right now. And if you shave basically a second off, you can beat Jadier and take the spot.
Oh, no.
Oh, that one's going to hurt.
Can I restart?
I think you have to restart. Oh. Okay.
That works for me. That's fine. All right. Spirit of James Baldwin. Come on, man. I'm going to join Team Rocket with you next season, so it'll be all good.
Okay. Solid, good start. Just to make sure that he doesn't clip anymore in the S curves. Remember, guys, he just needs to shave about, a single second would make him first.
Come on.
Okay, he's already faster. Now you're
Not
using
my best effort ever, but it'll do.
An Xbox controller, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
An ancient one from about 10, 15 years ago, so it's quite good. It's well worn in. Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Did he do it? You are 6/10 of a second away from first place.
No!
I was told you were going to do
I feel like there's not enough time.
Well, there's definitely not enough time, but you thought that you were going to do abysmally terribly, and you just placed second. Okay.
Oh no. Well, at least it's an Aussie one too. I think that's the important thing as I continue driving. But now I nailed it completely flat out because there's no pressure. You see, you guys did this.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming on. Do you have anything that you want to plug? Any sponsors to shout out? Anything like that? Take your moment.
I mean, the sponsors, Fanatec, my boys, absolutely love them. Rode, the microphone guys, that's why my voice is so silky and beautiful. Next Level Racing, the cockpit suppliers, and just come check out the channel, Ermin Hamidovic. It's at YouTube, I guess. It's the only place where I do my thing. And thank you very much, guys, for having me on. It was an absolute pleasure, and I loved this last segment too.
Thank you so much again. Have a great rest of your day. If you want to see more content with Ermin Hamidovic, check out his R Factor 2 tutorial over on our YouTube channel, overtake_GG, or just go to our homepage, overtake.gg, create your own account, and never miss any esports racing news again. Now, we'll be back with another episode of Nitro Nights on March 9th. Until then, stay safe and buckle up.